The time is now 7:30 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment for January 21, 2021. I am James Sullivan, and as chairman of the board, I would ask you now to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting, by permanently posting in the municipal complex announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home Tribune, filing such copy with the municipal clerk, posting same on the township website. What I would ask everybody to silence their microphones. Ben, I think yours is open. Mr. Young, I think yours is open too. No? Okay. This meeting is being conducted via the internet by a webinar. It's unique and it takes patience on all involved, as we no longer gather in the courtroom, but we're doing so from our homes or our home offices. This meeting is also being televised by OBTV channel 15, as well as live on YouTube. I remind those watching on their devices or TVs, there's up to a 30-second delay in communication. This will be important to remember if you wish to personally join the public portion later on. Anyone calling in must lower their device or their TV, or you'll be confused by the time delay and hearing two voices. I ask all participants now, please silence your cell phones at this juncture to avoid any disturbances. This meeting will follow the same protocols as always conducted by the Zoning Board of Adjustment. We start with some general housekeeping matters. And then this evening, they'll be followed by two minor applications. There won't be a necessity for any recess this evening, but if something should happen, we would break and we'll come right back on as soon as we can fix a problem or if someone needs to step away. All applications, there is a public portion that follows the testimony. If you're at home and you have any particular interest in either of these applications tonight, and you wish to ask any questions, make any comments via phone, I suggest that you take notes during the presentation to refresh your memory when you call in. Now would be a good time to access paper and pen or pencil if you don't have it available. Ms. Venus Sawant is the moderator of this meeting and controls the activities of the sound and cameras. So she is the township planner. And as such, I'm going to ask Ms. Sawant to say all the things that I have forgotten to say. Ms. Sawant.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, all. Couple of reminders. The zoning board members will be unmuted during the first half of the meeting when they will be required to vote on other agenda items. The zoning board attorney, the zoning board chairman, the zoning board secretary, and the court reporter will remain unmuted throughout the meeting. Everyone else will be muted once the presentation for the applications begin. The applicants will be asked to turn on their video and unmute themselves in the order in which they will testify. For public comments, I will announce the last four digits of the caller's phone number to come forward, announce their name and address. We will share the screen to display any exhibits or surveys. The meeting information will be displayed on the screen multiple times during the meeting so that any resident who wishes to call and join the meeting can do so. Please be patient. Each one of you will get an opportunity to speak. Please be mindful there is a 30-second time lag in the presentation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman, we need a roll call, I guess. We didn't do that, did we?
No, we did not. I was going to make a comment.
By all means.
Mr. Dewhurst?
Here.
Ms. Chevalier?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here.
Ms. Keldoff?
Here.
Mr. Scogno?
Here.
Ms. Andrews? Roseanne?
the other way, Roseanne.
I see her.
Okay, we got to get her to take that mute off so she can.
We'll work on that. It's in a second.
Oh,
Mr. Psychowski,
Here.
Mr. Stoner,
Yeah.
Chairman Sullivan.
Here.
Mr. Himmelman, you're on mute, David. Mr. Gill,
Here.
Ms. Sawant,
Here.
and myself, Kim Silverman.
Thank you, Ms. Silverman. Board members, we welcome back once again this evening as counsel, David Himmelman, Esquire. David has sat in before for Mr. Sachs. Mr. Sachs unfortunately had to go away. David, in emergency, has now been willing to sit and help us out tonight. We look forward to your guidance, Mr. Himmelman. Very nice to see you, and a happy New Year.
Same here, Mr. Chairman and members of the board and staff. Pleasure to be here.
Kim, has anything changed on the escrow deficiencies? Are they all the same?
The one I sent you, there's 4 of them.
Yes.
Yes, that's the one.
Mr. Himmelman, would it be okay if I call each one, but we could vote on them as a package?
Yeah, you can vote them as a block. That's fine. Just call them out individually.
Thank you, Mr. Hillman. Board members, you have your agenda in front of you. There's 4 of them, and I'm going to read them into the record. 07-2020Z LCP Group in the amount of 500. 17-2019Z, that's 220 Gordon LLC, in the amount of 2,000. 39-2018Z Oak Tree Plaza at OB LLC, that's in the matter of 5,000. And 30-2018Z 3150 Bordentown Realty LLC in the amount of $1,000. Board members, I'd ask someone to move them.
Connor, I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second, Kilduff.
Moved and second for adoption. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
yes,
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews. Okay, I can see she said yes. Chairman Sullivan,
Yes. Hopefully, Ms. Andrews, because we can't hear you, well, I want to affirm that you did agree and say yes. So raise your hand, please. Thank you. Okay. We'll try and get that fixed. I don't know. We don't have sound for her, Mr. Hillman, so I just want to make sure it's part of the record that she's making those comments.
Fine.
We'll move on to the next item on the agenda is resolutions, and there's 2. We'll take them in order. 07-2020Z, the LCP Group amended resolution. Mr. Himmelman, you have that?
I do not have the amended resolution, but I know that Kim has it. I think the board members. My understanding on that is this had to be amended to reflect, according to memorandums from VINA, regarding correcting the existing shed size to 192 square feet. And I believe the plans were submitted to reflect that. And other than that, I think this is an order to vote on.
Okay. Is that anything, Ms. Sawant, that you want to say on that?
No, actually, that's accurate. It's like a housekeeping matter.
Right.
The plan submitted had the shed size as 192 square feet. The engineer had testified to that. However, when the resolution was approved, in some places it was 192 and in some places it was 196. I did go and verify back. I read through the transcripts. It is 192. And so now the resolution has been amended to accurately describe the size of the shed.
Thank you, Mr. Sawant. Board members, any questions? I'll ask someone to move it for adoption.
Dewhurst, move it.
Is there a second?
Second,
Chevalier,
Kilduff.
second.
who seconded?
I think that was
Chevalier?
Yep.
You weren't there
I
for that,
can't. I wasn't here for this one, right?
right? Who
I'll
seconded?
second. I'll second.
Then.
Okay, Ben.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski,
yes,
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay.
The next one is 85-2020Z, Julio Romero. You have that one, Mr. Hillman?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And I believe that resolution was also circulated, but just to go through the essential elements. So this is an application to demolish an existing single-family residence and to construct a new two-story single-family residence. with a footprint of 34 by 25 feet with an unfinished basement. The applicant did testify at the hearing, and the findings of his testimony is set forth in paragraph 6 of the resolution. And I would like to just highlight the conditions, Mr. Chairman, of the resolution, which start on page 3. 1 is the applicant shall comply with all representations made on behalf of the applicant during the public hearing. The applicant should pay all taxes, fees, and required escrow deposits, which may be due and owing. The applicant should secure any and all approvals, licenses, permits required by any other board, agency, or entity having jurisdiction over the subject application or the subject property. And the board determined that upon the representations made by the applicant and or its representatives, that on all submissions submitted to the board and will be considered obviously a condition of this application for development, and is hereby incorporated into the resolution for reference. And you then can move and vote on this application accordingly, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Himmelman. Board members, you've heard the resolution. Someone move it, please.
I'll move it.
I'll second it, Scogno.
There was Mr. Dewhurst and Mr. Scogno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Mr. Sekowsky,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes, and I'll make a comment on this. You'll probably like to hear this, Mr. Himmelman. This was a very interesting story. This man had been married for a number of years, and he and his wife always wanted to build a new home on the property that they owned, and that being this property. She passed away, and he made a promise to her that he would get that done. He's doing that now and burying their wedding rings in the foundation. I thought that was quite the love story.
That's some story, Mr. Chairman. And I noted for the record, we don't have to put that in the resolution.
No, we don't.
But that is quite a story, and kudos to him.
Yes, exactly. That's the last of the resolutions we have for this evening. We have one continuation. That's 89-2020Z. That's Stephen and Denise Deek. It's in the R15 TCD zone, 4 Rose Lane for a 16 by 33 pergola requiring a C variance. Applicant asking to be continued to February 18, 2021 with further notice the 200-foot list. If you're watching tonight and you had an interest in this matter, it's not going to be heard this evening. It will be on our agenda scheduled for February 18th. That moves us to our 2 applications for the evening. We will take them in order as well. The first one is actually, we've already heard, and we're going to continue on that matter. It's 82-2020Z, R6 zone, Diane Petrillo, 58 Princeton Road, a driveway expansion requiring a C variance. The board may remember that this was an issue where the driveway was already built, and it's built out to the actual, it's the macadams out to the lot line. So we asked Mr. Gill to go back, as you recall, and to take a look and perhaps give the board some more information. Mr. Himmelman, Ms. Petrillo has already previously been sworn, so anything she says is still under oath, correct?
Yes, her testimony will be considered under oath and no need to swear her in again.
Very good. We could go then right to Mr. Gill. I know I read your report, sir. Would you brief the board on what you found?
Thank you, Chairman. So, as the chairman indicated, I was asked at the last meeting when the board decided to carry the case to go out to the property and meet with Ms. Petrillo, the applicant, and see, get a solid sense of what's going on the property. That produced a memorandum that was circulated to the board, and the gist of the conditions are as follows. As the application has stated, the applicant has installed a driveway that goes to the property lines. Not to belabor the previous testimony, but for everyone who may not be 100% up to date and listening, the applicant installed the driveway, did not realize they needed a permit, and when it came to their attention that they needed a permit, they filed an application to try to legitimize the permit. The board had concerns about water running off the property line. It's one of the reasons we have setbacks and we don't allow impervious coverage within 3 feet of the property line for most passive hardscapes and 5 feet from the property line for driveways. The issue that I was trying to confirm at the meeting that I was able to confirm when we were at the property is that while we would normally be concerned about water sheeting off the property, Ms. Petrillo's property is actually downhill on Princeton Road from the adjacent or the affected property. So you follow the topography of the street kind of drops down as it goes from the property that would be affected to their property. So water doesn't run uphill. And I was pretty comfortable that once I confirmed that condition, I can report back to the board that there really wasn't an issue on the site. However, there were some conditions that I spoke to Ms. Petrillo about that we were able to have some discussion. I don't want to put words in her mouth, so I'll let her summarize to that. But there was a downspout at her carport that is aimed towards the property line, and the driveway that was installed is pitched away from the house's foundation. So it's pitched towards the property line as any driveway would be so that water doesn't run towards the structure. It's always a good practice to have water running away. But the downspout that's attached to that side of the carport is shooting some water from that side of the roof towards the property line. And I advised her that moving that would probably reduce or minimize any risk of actual water runoff. As I identified in the memo, we were thinking about ways, and I think the board posited some options for Ms. Petrillo to consider in terms of curbing, blocking, removing a portion of the asphalt, maybe not to the 5 foot, but such that we'd remove some and give some water an opportunity to perk or be absorbed by the ground. But I think any action like that would have a negligible effect. Because the property slopes away, again, there is a small valley, as the memo indicates in some of the photos that were attached. There is a little area that's created by the two property or by the property topography at the boundary. And any water that is collected there, we saw evidence on the driveway that it sheets back onto her property. So I said, really, we'd fix that. For all those reasons and the discussion I had with Ms. Petrillo, I can confirm that this probably will not create a water runoff condition on the neighbor's property. I think that if we were to require them to install curbing or to remove any portion of the driveway, while it would be more compliant with the zone ordinance, and that's certainly a good thing, I think it will have a negligible effect, and I don't think that it's going to have a serious impact positively. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Your memo was very concise, and the pictures also told the whole story. So we do thank you for going out there. Ms. Petrillo, this is obviously your application. Is there anything you want to say further towards this application that you haven't already said?
No, I mean, just to kind of piggyback off of what Damien said regarding the leader that him and I spoke about when he was on my property. I had told him that I would speak to the roofer who actually just installed my my new roof along with the new gutters and leaders. And something that we had discussed was maybe removing that leader away and kind of shifting the water to one side. But he did say that wouldn't be an option because I don't have wide enough gutters to withstand the water that would rush to one side. So having to remove that is not an option. He said the only thing that you can do is take the elbow that's directed towards the lot in question with the water runoff. He said all you have to do is change the elbow to face towards the street, in which he switched it out for me. And he said that at this point, the way the house is structured and all the other houses are, he said that's the only thing you can really do. There's nothing else you can do. Outside of that, I have nothing further to say.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Gill, that would in effect, changing the elbow would in effect leave that water on her driveway, correct?
Yes, it would leave it on her driveway, and
once again, because of the topography, it's going to go down her driveway.
Yeah, some of it will go towards the property line, but now more will be retained on her driveway as it goes down towards the street.
Okay, thank you. Board members, questions? Just raise your hand so I can see if anybody wants to make any comments. Ms. Andrews, go ahead. But we're not going to be able to hear you, ma'am. Ma'am, you don't have any sound, so we can't hear you.
You're not on mute.
Can she chat it? She put it in the chat.
Well, we got to get this straightened out, but I welcome your comments, but unfortunately we can't address them because we can't hear them. Ms. Andrews.
I have a suggestion for the tech issue for Ms. Andrews. There is a tilde next to the microphone on Zoom. If you click on that tilde on the right, you should be able to select a microphone. So it's possible maybe the incorrect microphone is selected. Try different ones. It should work.
Well,
Miss Andrews, the other option is you can call in as an attendee and I will allow you to talk. So if you call in using the numbers displayed on the screen now, join in using your phone, and once I see you as an attendee, I will let you in, allow you to speak.
I'm assuming she is calling in. Okay, yeah, I can see her now. While she's calling in, I'm going to ask any other board members if they have any comments or questions. Okay, I see none. We'll wait for Ms. Andrews a bit and then we'll move forward. I'm assuming she's not getting through, Ms. Salant?
Guess so.
I don't see anybody up there.
Ms. Andrews, are you going to speak in favor or opposed to the, I would be curious, in favor or opposed by giving me a thumbs up or a thumbs down? I don't know what your comment was going to be, but ma'am,
Chairman, may I speak? I have a question, Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Stogner.
Ms. Petrillo, this was brought to your attention by your neighbor over a little squabble you might have had, and then you had to go out and get a permit because of the line barrier. Has he been satisfied? Have you heard from him?
So far, as I told Damien when he came to my property, once he called, and we never, after that, we never spoke again. There never seemed to be an issue. I would say about 2 months ago when he was outside of his property, he did mention to my wife that he did not want to live this way, that he wanted to kind of be cordial, where we're not calling on one another, and that we could kind of leave like a peaceful life, so to speak. And honestly, it's been very, very quiet, no squabbles at all.
Okay, so Damien, after completing all the requirements that you indicated, you don't think that the township will be in any type of danger if anything should come back from the neighbor?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not an attorney, and I would probably punt that to Mr. Himmelman just to expand on. But I think that we have qualified immunity if we feel that it's compelling and we want to approve a variance. I think we're well within our right. It's one of the reasons you guys consult with the professionals. But as an aside, I did also write in the memo that I had my inspector, Phil Stanford, reach out to the neighbor because there was a squabble and there was an enforcement action. So he was the lead on the enforcement action. So I thought it was a good idea to keep it in his court just because he already had a communicative relationship with the neighbor, and the neighbor didn't return our call. Certainly that is not indicating an endorsement, but it certainly speaks volumes as to whether or not he's dissatisfied, I think. We can take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, we're going to have a public portion, Mr. Scott, now, so we'll see if anybody calls in. I just want to finish up with the board. Any further questions? Mr. Himmelman, anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify 2 points. One, Mr. Gill made I agree with him. As a public entity, the town would have qualified immunity. Certainly here, after Mr. Gill reviewed the matter and is recommending what I would consider positive steps to improve the situation, we're not exacerbating it. So irrespective of any qualified immunity, I think the town would be within its rights. The only other question I had is, in reviewing Mr. Gill's memo of January 15th, where he says, I've recommended to the applicant that they relocate the downspout of the roof gutters. So when the applicant indicated that she's gonna relocate the elbow, is that what she's referring to there, or?
Right, so,
If I could, Ms. Petrillo. So what we had initially discussed was either changing the direction of the downspout so that it didn't shoot and aim towards the property line, because there's not a very large setback there. It's like 7 or 8 feet. The extension is like 3 or 4 feet. So it's really it's discharging 3 or 4 feet from the property line. So we discussed either changing its direction or relocating it, specifically to maybe cancel that leader and allow the water to run along the front face of the house to the leader that's installed on the left side of the property, on the opposite side of the property. As Ms. Petrillo indicated, the gutters aren't large enough to handle the roof capacity, which I suspected might be an issue. So I think turning it so that it's not shooting at the property meets our requirements and will satisfy, I think, the concerns that were generally echoed by the board in my office.
So, Mr. Gill, would you want that to be a condition of the resolution, or what would your preference be? Or,
I mean, if Ms. Petrillo, I'm loath to put conditions on stuff, but if she's not adverse to it being a condition, I don't see the harm in including it in the resolution. If the board decides to act positively.
Sure. And Ms. Petrillo, I assume you would not object to that as a condition?
no.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other board members? All right, I'm going to go to the public on this matter. Ms. Petrillo, you have nothing else to say at this point, right? I'm going to go to the public, okay? All right. This is matter 82-2020Z. It's located at 58 Princeton Road. It's a driveway expansion. Does anybody in the public have any commentary or questions for the board? Please call in now. The numbers were posted. I think Ms. Sawant can put them up again. Do we have anyone, Ms. Sawant?
I see one number, but I don't know if that is Miss Roseanne.
Well, let's see if it is her.
Oh, now I see her. Miss Roseanne, are you here?
Hear me? I'm on a phone.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, I was just, my concern was not having any compliance from the next door neighbor. I wouldn't want them to come back and hold it against the town. And I don't know if that would happen.
They can't do that, ma'am. Well, I mean, they technically could do that, but that's not going to happen.
Okay, that was my only concern. I was just wondering if that would happen because Ms. Petrillo didn't hear anything from the gentleman.
Right. No, we're a duly authorized body, as Mr. Himmelman had explained, and we do have the authorization to grant variances or deny.
Okay, and I'm trying very hard to get back on.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Kim can turn on my video to see if I'm back.
I got the big screen on here right now. I can't.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other callers, Ms. Sawant?
No raised hands.
Okay, Mr. Himmelman, have we given adequate time?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Have we given adequate time for people to call in?
I am satisfied, yes. I believe you've asked the public to participate, and I think we're ready to move on this.
Thank you, Mr. Himmelman. I'm going to close the public portion on this matter. Board, any final questions or comments before we go for a vote? I assume you want me to go for a vote, Ms. Petrillo, correct?
When the video appears.
Ms. Petrillo, you do want me to call for a vote, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, seeing no hands from the board, I'm going to ask if someone's in favor of moving this, please do so.
I'll move it.
Okay, Ms. Kilduff.
Kilduff.
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Dewhurst,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Mr. Stikowski,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
I think she's done everything she possibly can to try and mitigate the circumstances. My vote is yes. Do we have a resolution? Do you have it, Mr. Hillerman?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman, and if you would indulge me, I could go through the resolution and conditions.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is an application by Diane Petrillo, application number 82-2020Z of the Board of Adjustment, and it's a C variance, as you know. And the applicant proposes to permit widening the single driveway to alleviate violations of the side yard setback, proposing 0 feet to the property line, where, as you know, 5 feet is required on premises. For the record, the property is known as Block 5000.11, Lot 30, and is also known as 58 Princeton Road. There was a public hearing this evening. There being no public opposition, and the board having voted on this favorably, I will review the proposed conditions and the findings of fact. So 1, the applicant proposes to widen the driveway, proposing 0 feet from the property line where 5 feet is required. The property is located in the R6 zone. For a complete design of the property, there was a survey submitted, prepared by Daniel Hudley, and that was dated July 25th, 2018. The testimony presented was taken as a whole, and that the strict applications of the terms of the ordinance would result in undue hardship to the applicant. So the board makes the following findings of fact and conditions. 1, that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect adjacent and nearby properties, that the granting of said variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, that the granting of said variance will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare, that the granting of the variance will be without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. And in addition, there are actually 3 conditions. 1, Mr. Chairman, I guess would we refer to Mr. Gill's memorandum and the applicant's willingness to make the necessary improvements to the downspout as was described by the applicant and confirmed by Mr. Gill. And the other condition is that the construction is to be completed within 1 year of the issuance of the building permit, and the draining issues caused by driveway to the neighboring property will be the responsibility of the owner applicant. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, I believe this resolution is fine and can be voted on accordingly.
Thank you. Ms. Petrillo, you're fine with that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Board members, someone want to move the resolution for adoption?
I'll move it.
I'll second it, Scogno.
Mr. Scogno seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Sarkowski?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Petrillo.
Thank you.
Mr. Gill, thank you for going out there and getting us some information on that. We appreciate
My
it.
pleasure, Chairman.
Okay. The final matter for the evening is 2-2021Z. It's Michael and Jeannie Young. It's in the R6 zone. It's block 15580, lot 539, 2 Jersey Avenue, with a C variance, corner lot for an above ground pool. Mr. Young, I see your first name is Michael. I can read it on the screen here. Are you going to be the only one to testify this evening?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we start with the second presentation,
Yes.
Can I just have Ms. Roseanne, can you please call in the same way you called in before so that you can still comment using your phone? So you can keep the video on, but using your cell phone, you could call in and I can allow you to speak when you can offer comments.
I think I'm on.
Oh, there you go.
I think we
perfect.
fixed the problem. I went off and then went back in again, and that seemed to make the microphone work. So
Right.
I'm here.
Don't mute yourself anymore.
You sure?
Very good. Mr. Young, you're going to be the only one to testify?
Yes.
Okay. The board attorney is going to swear you in, sir.
Okay.
Good evening. Can you raise your right hand, please? You swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay, and just state your name and address for the record.
Michael Young, 2 Jersey Avenue, Old Bridge, New Jersey, 08857.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, I
Thank you.
defer to you.
Mr. Young, I know that you're applying for an above-ground pool, and I know you're a corner lot, and a corner lot presents 2 front yards, and the board's aware of that. What I want you to do, however, is because you're not represented, and in minor applications, most people are not, we want to, it's a formal proceeding, but we want to try to make it a little less formal for the homeowner. So simply tell us what you want to do, why you're doing it, and why you've been told that it's not proper. And then the board can make a determination whether to grant you a variance or not. We may have some questions. We're going to ask Mr. Gill as to why you're seeking a variance, or why you need to seek a variance. And then if you want, I will have a public portion, and then I will ask you if you want to vote. So at your own speed, why don't you just proceed and tell the board what's going on at your property?
As you said, our property is located on a corner, and the picture that you're looking at right now on the left side is the biggest piece of property that's behind our fence. And we'd like to put a pool there, but it's considered the front yard. And there's no way for us to put a pool there if it's considered the front yard unless we get the variance. So we'd just like to put a pool there so my kids could enjoy the pool during the summer, and my family can enjoy it at the same time, all of us.
Okay.
And we want to do it the proper way. We don't want to do it just put it up there and hope that the township won't find out later on. We want to do it the proper way.
Thanks. And this is above ground pool, right?
That is correct.
Why don't you describe your property and the fencing around it to the board?
The fence itself is a what is it?
PVC.
It's PVC.
White PVC.
It's 7 foot.
No.
Is
No,
it
6 foot.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to be clear. If we can only have Mr. Young testify because he was the only one that was sworn in.
Correct.
So.
Okay, sorry about that. I
believe it's 6 foot. I visited your property.
Okay, so it's a PVC 6 foot fence around the back side of the property that will allow this not too much space right behind our house, and then to the right side of the house is, unless behind the fence is not that much space either. So we're really just looking, the biggest piece of property that I have to put a pool is to the left side of the property. Yeah. And that's considered the front yard. And meanwhile, it's still behind a fence. It's all fenced off. And we're just looking to put something there so that we could enjoy it.
Your property is totally fenced in, correct?
Yes, the back side of it is, yes.
Right. Would anybody be able to see this from the street, do you think?
No.
Okay. Mr. Gill?
Good evening, Chairman. Thank you. As the applicant has already stipulated and testified, and you yourself, Chairman, have already acknowledged the fact that this is a corner property. This property, as the survey indicates, is further, I don't want to say compromised, but it's made more difficult by the fact that the building is also catty corner to the intersection. When you do that, you tend to have these narrow yard spaces that are created by the extreme corners of the house. And it cinches the available land that is technically in the side or the rear yard. In some instances, the home is moderately sized for the lot. So it's not like we have an oversized house that's creating an undersized yard condition. But the back of the yard, as the survey shows, there's a deck with a concrete pad. I believe there was also a hot tub that was recently installed. Is that correct, Mr. Young? You know, yes. Kind of like a COVID morale measure, I think Mr. Young described it as. So what happened was trying to come up with a scenario. I remember going through the iteration with Mr. Young and Mrs. Young, trying to figure out how we can get a pool in this backyard, and it basically required them to reconfigure a decent sized pool. I mean, certainly a more modest pool may have fit, but getting a pretty standard sized pool today would have required them to reconstruct the entire deck or a good portion of it, and you'd basically be walking out of the back door into the pool, and they opted not to do that. So from a technical perspective, as the denial letter reads, the applicant proposes the installation of an above ground pool 12 by 24 in a front yard. Accessory structures are not permitted in the front yard. The applicant will require a variance for the placement of the pool. And that's perfectly identified on the survey, indicating that the pool, which is 12 by 24, will be forward of the house relative to Adams Street. The pool, as I understand it and has been proposed, will conform with all other respects with regard to setbacks from the structure and setbacks from the side yard. We did discuss potentially putting it on the right side of the property as well, but that would have eaten into the railroad tie wall and presented some topographic challenges on the right side of the property because the driveway is a little lower than the yard space. So it would have affected some of the topography there, and it really was impractical. And it is a smaller space. And that is why they're here this evening.
Thank you. Well, the board would be then voting on accessory structure in the front yard, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Young, is there anything else you want to tell me at this particular moment? I don't.
No, just nothing in particular. Just hoping that we could get this thing done so we could enjoy the summer.
Let me ask the board members, would you raise your hand in front of you if any of you have anything to say? Mr. Scogno, go ahead.
Mr. Young, may I ask the contractor for the pool, did he indicate that he might dig the pool down maybe a foot or so, or is that going to be just on flat ground installation?
Well, we haven't talked about going down. We're thinking about maybe going down a foot, but it's at that most is going to be a foot. That's it. But we were thinking about it. If we can't do that, then we'll just stay on top of the ground. But because we originally planned on just doing on top, but if we could put it a little lower so people won't be able to see us going in and out of the pool, that'll be a lot better.
Correct. Are you going to use the ladder that comes with the pool, or are you planning to put a deck around it?
Yes, we're going to use the ladder that's coming with the pool.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other members of the board? Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Young, I'm going to go for a public portion of this, okay? Thanks.
Thank you.
If you're watching at home and you want to make any comments or offer suggestions or speak in behalf or against this application, this is matter 2-2021Z. It's located at 2 Jersey Avenue. It's a corner lot where the pool would be considered in a front yard because a corner lot has 2 front yards. So it's a technical violation. Anyone want to make any comments? Please call one of the phone numbers in front of you.
There are no callers.
Okay, why don't we just give it maybe 30, 45 seconds and see if anybody's going to phone in. Mr. Hill, you feel that we've given ample time for a phone call?
I am satisfied you've given ample time for public participation. Yeah, I think you can close the public portion.
All right, thank you very much. Board members, absent any comments, I'm going to ask someone to either move or move for denial.
I'll move it.
Move in favor, correct?
Yes.
Mr.
Connor,
Dewhurst.
I'll second.
Connor is second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Kilduff,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews. You're muted.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Yay. Chairman Sullivan,
Yes.
no. It's okay.
We have a resolution.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, we do. And if you'll indulge me, I will go through the application and findings of fact and all conditions. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
So this is an application filed by Michael and Gina Young under application 2-2021Z of the Board of Adjustment. And this is the applicant seeks to the permission to permit the construction of a 12 by 24 in-ground pool. And as the applicant testified, this is a corner lot yard, and the proposal would be in violation of the front yard setback, where is required 21.77 feet and proposing 8 feet on the premises. And for the record, it's block 16680, lot 539, also known as 2 Jersey Avenue. And a public hearing obviously was held this evening. No one objected from the public to the application, and the board will make the appropriate findings of fact. 1, the applicant is proposing construction of a 12 by 24 in-ground pool at the corner lot. The second front requires 21.77 feet and proposing 8 feet, and the property is located in the R6 zone. As I indicated, it's a corner lot with 2 fronts. The applicant did submit a plan survey prepared by its surveyor, and the applicant did provide testimony, and that in their belief would not result in undue hardship to the applicant. So the board makes the findings, the current findings of fact. 1, that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the value of the adjacent and nearby properties, that the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, that the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare, and that the granting of the variance will be without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment of the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. And now be it resolved by this board on the 21st day of January 2021 that it confirms the action taken this evening in granting an approval for bulk variance to permit the construction of a 12 by 24 in-ground pool at the corner lot yard second front in accordance with the plan submitted by the applicant, subject to the following conditions: that the construction is to be completed within 1 year of the issuance of the building permit. Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied with the resolution, and the board can now move that and vote on it accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Hillman. One point of order. There may have been a typo. This is block 15580. I have the tax record in front of me, not 166.
It's also an above ground pool, not an in-ground pool.
I'm sorry, it would be in ground.
Above ground.
Okay, no, above
It's
ground.
Above ground pool.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Okay.
Well, the resolution referred to in ground.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, we will
We'll
That
make a
should be
correction
corrected.
on that and a
Well,
correction on the block.
And the correction on the, well, Mr. Chairman, let me just confirm the survey, because I have the survey here. Let's just double check that.
Mhm.
The survey has, you're correct, lot 539, block 15580.
Okay,
Yes,
So we are, Mr. Chairman, you are correct.
so noted. Okay,
I probably wasn't wearing my glasses when I did that.
That's okay. So, Mr. Chairman, with those corrections and revisions, it's appropriate to vote on this now.
thank you, Mr. Hillman. Board members, you've heard the resolution, so I want to move it for adoption. I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Who had the second?
Ms. Kilduff, roll call, please.
Mr. Dewhurst?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Keldorf?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews? You're muted.
Yes.
Okay,
Chairman Sullivan?
yes, good luck with your pool.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman and Board.
Okay, have a great
Good
night.
luck.
Thank you.
That's the end of the agenda this evening. Ms. Silverman, you have anything to inform the board of at this point?
No, our next meeting is February 4th,
Okay,
and it is a Zoom right now.
I'm sure it will be. Mr. Himmelman, thank you very much for standing in as counsel this evening. It's always nice to see your face.
Nice to see you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and wishing you all to stay safe and be healthy.
Yes, you do the same. Hopefully we can see you in the courtroom where we can reconvene, right?
I would like that very much.
I'm sure all of us will. Okay, board members, anybody want to have any final comment? Raise your hand. None? Accept a motion for adjournment.
A motion?
Motion by Ms. Kilduff, all in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. We'll see you again in February.
Have a wonderful
Good night,
evening,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.